Hello, shitlords and shit ladies, or if you prefer, pig fuckers. Welcome to Rantzerker. Gamers, your pain is our gain. With me, as always, is Karen Strawn.
Hello.
We'll be sharing the video that we will be, which is on the PBS Ideas channel, I believe. And I don't even know the name of the guy. I couldn't find it on the channel. So if you know the name of the guy, just put thank you for that.
PBS. So it's the part of the PBS network.
Yeah, PBS, where apparently they talk about gaming, and then at some point started to talk about feminism. It's almost like they suckered you in with the games and then the feminism. But anyway, let's go to the mailbag while Karen sets up the video. And yeah, thank you for writing in. By the way, if you want your email to go to a specific show, just put the name of the show in the top email. Don't forget the paragraphs and send it to topic@badgerpod.com. That's topic@badgerpod.com. Let's do this thing. Dear Karen and Alice, I sent this before and you mentioned someone sent an email. I didn't know if that was mine. I didn't know if this was disregarded as being off topic either. This is just to be sure. Well, no, it wasn't disregarded as being off topic. We're reading it now. I just lost. Interested in your political standpoint. Are you a strong capitalist social thoughts surrounding this? From previous videos, I feel Karen supports the capitalist system, but I may be wrong. I've done zero, so consider it none research on the Canadian politics. From what I've heard, I've seen it's a fairly left-wing country, at least socially. I've always viewed Allison as a socialist due to her more aggressive and kindness. Please do not take offense if I'm incorrect. Are you even interested in the world of politics, locally or internationally? I hate the government I am stuck with in the UK and find it so hard to believe that people are still choosing conservative over a kinder or more caring political standing. Anyway, I hope to hear from you soon, verbally or written. Love your work. Glad the Honey Badger Radio was formed so that I could find the wonderful Allison. Enough groveling, sincerely, Perry. And myself, I'm not really a believer that government can solve problems, so that I don't know what that makes me.
Yeah, no, me too. I think that essentially government has done so many things that have started out well-intentioned that have actually resulted in a lot of damage and a lot of learned helplessness from people and a lot of like the war on poverty essentially was the death knell of black men's wages, black men's earnings. Government cares, but it doesn't care like a person. It just doesn't, and it can't. And it will take a cut of like even if I went through family maintenance enforcement to have child support extracted from my ex, which I would never do, but if I did, the agency would take a cut of that. They would take a cut of that money. And they do it so that they can, pay for shit, right? Maybe shit that I don't want. And so essentially, government is an organism. Right? And it's always going to want to grow. It's going to want to grow bigger. It's going to want to eat more. It gets more hungry. And because it has a monopoly, there's just nothing to hold it in check. So this is why I would rather have a non-government. I would rather see some of the things that I would rather see government not fund certain things at all that are primarily just women, right? Like breast cancer research and stuff. Get the government out of that. Get it into private donors. Like just freaking whatever. It just because you're not gonna be able to
in the chat
the government to care about men. They're not gonna do that.
In the chat, they're saying that you have a porn tab open. I don't see it personally, but
I do not have a porn tab open, unless how I become a video game feminist is a porn tab.
It's only moral porn, friends, and it's only there because we're going to review and tear it apart as the moral porn it is. So, okay, let's move on to the next letter. Let's get through this really quick.
Okay.
All right, Ernie here. A thought struck me. Feminism is so angry with there being less women in STEM, looked down on typical female-dominated professions, such as being a nurse. To me, it just says that that they despise true feminine virtues to the point where they will complain that women tend to go to the more social, more empathic professions. Well, before I let Karen respond, I'm going to put my 2 cents in. In the 80s, there were women in STEM. And it was still a very, 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 it was a difficult subject matter at that time. It wasn't, since the 80s,
Oh my goodness.
there have been half as many women have gone into STEM, essentially, or proportionately. The problem with saying that feminists don't like women in nursing is that the feminist rhetoric coincides perfectly with women, with the exodus of women out. The 80s was when it started to really ramp up, this idea that women were defined by being victims of the patriarchal society. And that's when you see the out of STEM. So I would actually argue that although feminism on its surface seems to promote the idea of women in STEM, it does everything in its power to get them the fuck difficult and challenging subject matters and get them the fuck out of groups and industries like STEM by making it seem like STEM is hostile to women, but also getting women out of casual things like gaming by making gaming seem hostile to them. So I'd say that the ultimate feminist goal is to create a problem and then continue to create a problem and complain about that problem to justify their further existence. I would there you go, Karen.
I would have to agree, although I do think that there is this idea that when women do traditionally feminine-seeming things like the nurturing professions and stuff like that, they're seen as being victimized by their own interests, seen as being victimized by their own preferences. And yeah, I have often said that, even if girls are socialized one way and boys are socialized the other, if they both end up happy in what they choose to do, even based on that socialization, then there really hasn't been an injustice done, right? So even if it was 100% socialization, even if it was 100%, the girl was steered toward dolls and plushies and the boy was steered toward cars and Legos, and they happily played with those, and then they happily went into engineering and nursing respectively. How have they been harmed by this, right? And you can only assume that they've been harmed by this if you see some professions more prestigious than others, and some professions as sort of having a greater access to power than others, right? So, like, I just the entire fucking rhetoric around it just seems so arbitrary, and it really does seem to denigrate sort of what have been considered traditional feminine virtues. At least in the sense, when they're expressed by women, right? Then it's not allowed. Just like Simone de Beauvoir said, women should not be authorized to stay home and make families, because if they are allowed to, too many will do it.
All right, it looks like I'm having a bit of a lag issue on my end, Karen.
Yeah,
so
but it might be clearing up now. Seems a little bit better.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down to audio only, and I'll only be able to hear on your end what's going on.
Okay.
But that should be sufficient.
Okay.
So hopefully that will solve the issue.
All right.
All right. And I've closed off Skype in hopes that was the problem. And otherwise, there's not much more I can do.
All right. Actually.
All right. So. Seems a little better?
Yeah, until you said seems a little better, and then it got worse, but oh, god damn it.
Well, I can read the next letter, but it might be really painful, so let's skip it and get right into it, because at the very least they can hear you responding.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna start playing this freaking lovely video. Let's see if we can take it. There we go, all the way back to the beginning. Now, this video frustrates me because the guy talks so fucking fast. I'm just going to say that right away. He talks so fucking fast. It's like he doesn't want people to actually have time to think about what he's saying. So,
but we will think about it.
We will. All right, here we go.
We will comment. Yes, good.
Let's talk about how I became a video game feminist. Here we go. So over the life of this show, you might have noticed that I come back to the same types of issues again and again. It could be race or sexuality, but the one that is often the most charged is gender. And from time to time, I get commenters who say stuff like, I liked Game Show when he just talked about video games, not any of this social justice stuff. But here's the rub.
Okay, all right. Okay, there's some stuff I want to unpack there. All right, first of all, I always get into this argument with feminists that they aren't presuming that men, by presenting men as women way, that ethnicities have oppressed each other, or races have oppressed each other, or classes have oppressed each other, refuse to say that that actually paints men as sociopathic, because it's an entirely different category of oppression. There's an entire different category of emotional landscape between oppressing an other, your mother and sister and wife and daughter. I mean, that there's a huge chasm there, and yet they're equating the oppression yet through differences in ethnicity or differences in culture or race, with differences in like sex, when men and women generally have the most intimate relationships throughout history. That requires, if men are oppressing women, the people that they generally have the most intimate relationships with throughout history, that requires a level of sociopathy that other types of oppression don't have, if they're equivalent. And feminists usually say, well, I don't like, the oppression of men by women is different than the oppression of men, or the oppression, racial oppression or class oppression or any other category of oppression. And then at the same time, you have to ask, well, then why do they choose to make the gender vector the most important one? If it's the least oppressive, if it's the lesser oppression, why call it patriarchy? Why not call it
ethnicarchy
or culturarchy or aristocracy? You know, like, why call it patriarchy if this is the least difficult or the least problematic vector of oppression? So you're privileging one oppression there, but at the same time as you're saying that oppression is lesser. So here's the question. Why is it that gender, I mean, why are you making gender oppression the most difficult, the most complex oppression, or the most important oppression to address, but not simultaneously realizing that either racial oppression is worse or men are sociopaths?
I would have to agree. It just seems like essentially they really want to have their cake and eat it too, and say, you know, we think men are the scum of the earth, right? Oh, but you know, we don't hate men.
Yeah, let's I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, let's move on.
Oh, wait. Just one more thing. Also, oppression narrative. We have used the oppression narrative throughout history to target groups of people for discrimination. In fact, this is the only time I've seen it used throughout history. And yet, for some reason, feminists think they've got it right this time. Of course, every time we do it, we think we got it right, and we're usually wrong, very, very wrong. In fact, they've never been right. But okay.
It's exactly like the in the former Yugoslavia, right, with the Bosnian Muslims and the Serbs and the Croatian Catholics, right, and all of the genocides that went on there. It didn't matter what side you talked to. The ones who were committing the genocides were saying that they were victims of the others, right?
Yeah.
You know, like they all claimed, you know, just as vehemently that they were victims of the others, whether they were or the ones who were being victimized and being, you know, subjected to genocidal violence, or the ones who were inflicting the genocidal violence. They were all victims, right? And of the other. And so it just, like, the whole, and it really probably is only the intimacy of that relationship and the empathy that women have for their men in particular, that prevents something that has prevented Valerie Solanas or Rad Fem Hub from being able to realize some kind of massive, you know, huge, brutal action against men. I mean, they've done it by increments, but they've never been able to swing a mass genocide, or a rounding up of men and sticking them in concentration camps, because you have mothers with sons and wives and their husbands and sisters with their brothers, and they know that they have the empathy for their men, the men who are close to them and who they're intimate with. And so essentially, I think that that's probably the only thing staving it off. And if that's the only thing staving it off, then I don't understand how we can portray men as being, historically, for like millennia, not staving off their own sociopathy, right? Like they just, like, they treated women in a genocidal fashion, right? They targeted women for specific forms of, like, really, really nasty oppression. And you know, and your grandfather, he participated in this, right? Yeah, no, I think in their hearts, women don't believe that of their own men, unless their men were particularly abusive, right? So I just, this is why I think that this, I mean, it's worrisome to me that this is the first point in history, I think, where we're really hearing these kinds of horrible things about our own men rather than men of other cultures or religions. But at the same time, I think that it's not as worrying as it could be, simply because men and women do have those intimate relationships with each other and with their own men. And, you know, and they aren't going to be able to think about their men in the same outgroup terms that we have historically thought of other cultures or religions belonging to. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does make sense. It'd be nice if women as a group started to extend that to all men and push back seriously against this narrative that shames men for being men. But
I think they do it when it's their son, right? Mm-hmm. Or their husband who's being persecuted. But I don't have a whole lot of hope for women in general being moved to you know, large scale action on these things, because it really is sort of only when it happens to one of the men who are, you know, they care about on an individual level that they really even care to look at the issues. So it seems to be a completely different way of looking at the opposite sex than, you know, men have. So where you have men who they, you know, nobody they cared about necessarily, none of the women they cared about was, you know, harmed or, you know, hurt or oppressed or persecuted, but they're happy to be a feminist, and they're happy to support feminism, and they really care about women in general. And, you know, and when they go into government, they're going to try and get more funding for this, that, and the other. You know, or if they're a businessman, they're going to donate to the battered women's shelter. And then when Erin Pitsey comes knocking for donations for the battered men's shelter, they just laugh at her. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to the next segment.
Okay.
Not a separate part of our existence. They're a product of our time, place, and culture, wherever that may be. No medium transcends its context, not even video games, as much as I would like them to. So sometimes they reflect amazing aspects of our culture, and sometimes, intentional or not, they reinforce some of its flaws. And this means games are part of one of the most pointed, contentious, and important movements.
Okay, all right. Who gets to decide the flaws?
Yeah, no, I noticed that the nipples were blurred there. And this seems highly ironic, considering it's like a big feminist push right now, free the nipple, you know, for women to be able to go topless in public. And yet he's portraying a woman who's topless in a video game as being problematic.
I guess
Weird.
Yeah, it seems rather well for me. What stands out is that, I mean, is there a consensus over what gets viewed as a flaw?
Well, and on top of that, I think that honestly, like, okay, if you're going to look at the sexualization of women as a flaw, like, okay, so all of humanity for all of history, right, based on like the one thing that keeps us going as humanity, right, the primary thing, the primary drive, the primary interaction, right, which is sexuality and sex, that's a flaw, right? Our interest in sex is a flaw somehow.
Or alternatively, that men's gaze upon women is somehow problematic.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it victimizes women. Once again, I think that if you're going to declare a medium having flaws, that maybe you should allow other people to have an opinion on what flaws they have, or, but it seems like it's always one way. They dictate the flaws, and gamers and game developers have to abide by it.
Yes.
All right, let's
movements of the last 100 years, assuring women a place alongside men in every conversation.
Okay, here he says video games have been part of a movement, video games are part of feminism. No, they're not. Okay, and if as I have said before, as one fan wrote to me ages ago, if every single thing is a cultural text that is open to interpretation and analysis, so greeting cards and holidays and customs and movies and clothes and all of these things, right? If this is all a text, if everything is a text to be analyzed, right? Why are we not allowed to judge women, to analyze their dress? Like, why is it that we are allowed to analyze the cultural text as it exists in a video game, right? And what that says about the status of women, and what that says about the game creators and the people who have control over how that woman is presenting in that video game, because it's the game developers who are the ones who are just, so we're allowed to criticize the game developers for dressing their female character like a slut, right? But we aren't even allowed to question a woman's choice, individual choice of dress, and whether she might be actually intentionally or otherwise trying to express a message through her clothing. No, she's just wearing it because she wants to, and that's that, nothing more. There's nothing underneath it, right? So we have this whole ethic of everything that we come across day to day as a cultural text that we can analyze. But sexuality, right, is running rampant through the whole thing. It's a huge undercurrent through the entire thing. This is what feminists say, right? And yet when somebody says to a girl in high school, you're in violation of the dress code because your skirt is too short and your bra straps are showing, and we think that this is a distraction, right, to the other students, then that's somehow we're not allowed to criticize her choice of clothes. We can criticize the game developer for choosing to dress his character, his female character, like a hussy, but we're not allowed to criticize a real woman who dresses like a hussy. We're not allowed to question her motivations. We're not allowed to even assume that she has any motivation.
Well, that's because game designers have agency and women do not. But that's an unquestionable. Like, you can't question whether or not that presents a very misogynistic view of femininity. That when women take an action, it doesn't really have any impact on anything. But when men take an action, it does. So we need to criticize men, but not women, because obviously men's actions have potency and women's actions have are just ineffective and meaningless to the world. But I wanted to look at like this, the use of the suffragettes, because he's legitimizing his dialogue by using the suffrage, which is considered to be by the mainstream to be an act of equality. Although to
like,
that I would
totally uncontroversial, as
Yeah.
Steve Jobs would say.
Yeah, totally uncontroversial act of equality. Yet, granting women suffrage without a corresponding, granting women all of the rights of citizenship without corresponding responsibilities of citizenship that male citizens had is not an act of equality by definition. This is really actually quite black and white. If there's one group of citizens with the rights, but not the responsibilities, and another group of citizens with the rights and with responsibilities, the second group of citizens is by definition a second-class group of citizens. So the suffrage did not create equality, it created inequality. And using it here actually shows the true nature of this. Because do you think this guy's ever thought of it that way?
No, absolutely not. I mean, like he signed up for his selective service. He signed up when he was 18, or when he applied for a driver's license or to register to vote or something, because there's small print in there that says by signing this, you're agreeing, you're registering for selective service. So essentially, it's so automated now that you don't actually have to register. You're probably, if you have a driver's license or you've ever voted, or you've ever applied for any kind of government benefit, you're probably already registered without you even knowing it. Unless you're one of those people who picks through, when you sign up for YouTube and you read all of those terms of service. Oh my goodness, the 59 pages, right? Yeah, no, people don't do that. They just sign. And so if you signed without reading all of the fine print when you applied for a driver's license, or applied for a student loan, or applied for, welfare, or applied for, to vote, to register to vote, you're probably registered for selective service if you're a man, right? Just automatically, just happens, right? And it's not that long ago. I was alive when there was a draft in the United States. This is in my living memory. There was a draft in the United States.
Yeah, no.
A selective service only exists, and everybody who says, oh, it'll never happen, it'll never fucking happen, right? We'll never have another draft, right?
As soon as there's need for one.
Who says that, right? Ask yourselves, then why does selective service exist? All it is extra expenditure and extra paperwork and extra bureaucracy and extra money flying out the asshole of government, right? If they could cut, if they felt that, when they're cutting the budget, if they felt that they could cut selective service, they would, because all it is a cost. All it is money out the window.
Of course, you could say that they're just doing it so to keep the bureaucracy alive. But you're right. I mean, they do cut things that they find, useless. So why wouldn't they cut that unless there was actually at some point an implication that men might be drafted? But But that's the thing that these individuals But really, what she's using here is he's trying to use that, which is considered by mainstream to be uncritical aspect of equality, to legitimize his next dialogue.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. So he's I don't know what it would be called, sweetening the well.
I think so. It really is. It's like pouring crack cocaine down the well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This may be hard to accept. Sometimes you likely feel helpless or under attack. Sometimes.
Okay. All right. This is where it really gets creepy. Sometimes you might feel helpless or under attack.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just have to and I presume that the people that he's talking to right now are gamers, mostly male gamers. I would assume that he's primarily talking about male gamers.
It's absolutely primarily male gamers, because that's the vast majority of his audience, right? Because female gamers, given the types of games that they're more likely to be interested in, solitaire and Candy Crush and Bejeweled and all of that other crap, right? And Farmville, right? They don't watch video game media. They don't read Kotaku. They don't watch shows like this, right? The people who are watching shows like this are generally going to be the consumers of AAA games, first-person shooters, MMORPGs, like all of these platforms that are dominated by male players, right? And so, of course, he's going to have a predominantly male audience. And I bet you if you looked at his stats, you'd find that even though he's what a lot of gamers would call a total cuck, right? The majority of his audience is probably still male.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's a handy guide to demagoguery. When someone's invalidating your feelings of being helpless and attacked, as he is doing, by saying, well, essentially what he's saying and what he's about to say is that he's either dismissing male gamers' feelings of being helpless or attacked, that should be irrelevant to what he's doing. If people are feeling, or if men are feeling helpless and attacked because of what you're doing, maybe it's because they are helpless and feeling attacked, or are helpless and are being attacked by you. Have you considered that? I mean, he's allowing for it, but he doesn't seem to be acknowledging it.
Well,
and this is
it's his way. It's his way of saying sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it's a sorry, not well. He's actually, it's worse, because by saying it this way, he's actually saying that male gamers feeling attacked and feeling helpless, he's correlating it with men opposing the vote for women.
Yeah.
So he's essentially delegitimizing feeling attacked or feeling helpless completely for a group of people. That is the moment that you really should step back and say, hey, this guy is not just a bigot, but he's a potentially violent bigot. When he's actually preemptively saying, oh, you may feel helpless and attacked by what I'm about to do, but that's illegitimate.
Yeah, and if you feel that way, it's probably because you hate women and don't want them to vote.
Yeah. This is when you break apart all of this, that's what he's getting at. Do you think this guy thinks that when he presents this dialogue that gamers are bad people that hate women, do you think that this guy is saying that gamers thus feeling attacked and feeling helpless and being attacked is actually a legitimate response to being criticized? No, he's not saying that. He's saying it's an illegitimate response.
Yeah.
And it's like this is like red flags should be going up, sirens should be going off, that he thinks that he can safely ignore a population feeling attacked and belittled and marginalized by his rhetoric. That he can just ignore that. Because I can tell you, before I get into being really pissed at this, I can tell you that if it was a group of women who were saying, I feel helpless and attacked by your behavior, you damn well better believe that he would pay attention to it and society would pay attention to it. And then there would be PBS games on how women are feeling attacked by this dude. And he would be like enemy number one. This is the reason why there are fewer women in STEM and fewer women in games, is precisely because we do not care when men say, I'm feeling helpless and attacked. And we do care when women say, I'm feeling helpless and attacked. Because men, when they feel helpless and attacked, we delegitimize it and say, you fuck it up, suck it up, be a man. That's the role for women. You're supposed to be strong so you can save women. And why do you think men are drawn to media that presents them as strong and saving women or saving something? You know, it's like, fuck, you are buying into the same thing because you don't stop and say, hey, what the fuck am I saying here? And you would, if you were saying this to a more dominantly female group, you would say, hey, actually, the fact that I'm making a predominantly female group feel helpless and attacked, maybe I should stop and consider what I'm doing here. Maybe I should think about it. And incidentally, when you say men are feeling helpless and attacked, my blood starts to stir. And I say to my squire, bring me my fucking broadsword. And my squire is my cat, don't worry. Anyway, you can continue.
Okay, yeah, and if it's that teeny tiny little cat, she can't even lift that shit. So, all
No,
right.
I know it's the big one. It's the big one.
Oh,
So beware, person with no name in a red stripy shirt, who I don't know the name of.
this pink stripy,
I'm getting the big cat to bring me my broadsword.
the big one. He's very fat, and he's also cranky.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're gonna move on because I don't think I can top that rant, and I'd be like, someone trying to follow Jerry Lee Lewis on stage. And
No, I don't think so. Like you have excellent. You look people sideways, Karen. You're like, here, have a mint julep and a brick to the head.
a mint julep. I could really go for one of those right now, but instead, I got this guy.
To both love games and be critical of them. But that's what it means to be a critic of games, and hopefully a game show viewer as well. To be able to look at the media of and
a critic of games. Seriously.
Yeah,
so you don't actually criticize games in the medium that they're in. It's like criticizing a painting, a music critic criticizing a painting.
It's essentially like a postmodernist criticizing evolutionary psychology.
All right. Well, that's a minor infraction. So let's
ask really hard questions like how we can be better at treating women equally in the world of games. Besides,
why?
What?
Why? Why should we ask that question? Right?
What did
women aren't equal consumers of games. Women are, and women don't want to be treated equally, right? Because if they did, they'd be like shoe. They'd be like shoe on head, and they'd be like shit talking right back to those fuckers, and that'd be that.
Well, it's what really pisses. No, I'm not gonna say pisses off. All right, I'm gonna stay calm here for as much as I can.
Okay.
A game world and a game already treats female gamers as equal to male gamers because female gamers' actions in the game world have equal weight in the game world as a male gamer. So it's a world in which women experience being equally, like having equal consequences to their male colleagues. If you don't successfully fight the danger, you die.
Yeah, you don't get more life points at the start because you're a chick.
And at the same time, if you're evil, you get the same consequences as a male character. So the into the game itself is already written equality because the game doesn't treat you different based on your gender. What they're doing, what this red stripe smug git is doing, is he's going into a genre that is already about equality and telling women, no, your actions aren't equally as potent in the game world because the game acts on you, because you're a woman, because you are a victim of the game, because you're a woman. He's returning women. This is like pulling women back from the precipice of true equality, true equal potency with men in the game world, pulling them back and saying, no, your proper role is as victim. You don't get that. You have to recognize that you're a victim of games.
Yeah.
And then you know what's going to happen? I'm sure he says that, however many women are in gaming, it's going to probably have, this rhetoric is probably going to have them. They're going to go out of gaming. If they're not, I actually have a little more faith in female gamers than that. But this is what they're trying to do. This is what they did with STEM. And promoting all this, STEM is dangerous to women. Oh, well, I guess I better not go into STEM. They're promoting this entire victimhood mentality around STEM. An exodus of women out of STEM. There's going to be an exodus of women out of gaming if this rhetoric isn't opposed. Because it's like they're insisting that women see themselves as victims of games when gaming is the most equal playing field possible. And it's almost like, and to be honest, conspiracy theory time, it's almost like this is the point. They want to create the sickness so they can control the sickness, sell the cure, and make more sickness.
Yeah.
And
the more sickness there is, the more cure they can sell.
Yeah. And it's like, but at the expense And here's the thing, this is at the expense of female gamers.
Yeah.
Potential female gamers now and in the future. Because this kind of rhetoric will get women out the door. If they're not strong enough to oppose it, which I have a suspicion female gamers may be. But it'd be nice if in the process of opposing it, female gamers also say, hey, yeah, lay off our bros. Like, lay them off. Lay off them. Fuck off.
Well,
Hey.
what drives me crazy is that whenever you actually have a female gamer saying, I don't agree with this guy, that female gamer is called a sock puppet or a chill girl, or, you know, she's just, it's just a dude who's pretending to be female, you know, and even these women are seen as harming women because by not just tolerating the status quo, but actually feeling like you fit in with the status quo, by actually saying, this is an environment that I like just as it is. You are now harming other women.
Yep. And then because you're harming other women, you become officially a man, and you can be subject to all of the censure that any man can be subject for being a heretic. So you either adopt this posture of victimhood or you suffer.
I keep getting reminded of in the Steve Shives video that we did, where he's scrolling through all these anti-feminist videos, and one of them, the thumbnail, has a picture of a woman with her shirt, I feel safe and welcome at TAM, right? At the amazing meeting. I feel safe and welcome at TAM. And somehow this, like this particular shirt drove a feminist woman to tears, right? And then she reported afterwards that she felt oppressed and threatened by the efforts of security to help her, right? And keep her safe from the trauma of seeing that shirt.
I make a prediction. If these people who have marched into the games community remain unopposed, and if female gamers to submit to them, we will see a halving in the number of female gamers.
Well, I think
they'll just start, because what will happen, Karen, is I think what happened with STEM, women didn't go in. The women who retired were not replaced by new women because they've been frightened off. And the female gamers now in this generation will not be replaced by a new generation.
It won't be because the women who are there because they love the environment now are going to be convinced that it's toxic. No, it's just that when they are gone, there won't be any there won't be similar numbers or greater numbers to replace them.
Yeah.
There will be people who are like, I was told that, playing a FPS on, if playing Team Fortress 2 was like really, I'd probably be raped. And so, or at least, chat raped.
They're desperate to make women into victims and oppose the one medium in which women get to have equal consequences for their actions as men.
Well, they even get to be seen exactly the same as men. All you have to do is not turn your mic on, and you can play Team Fortress 2 or you can play World of Warcraft or whatever, right? And nobody would know. Nobody would know you're a woman, right? They wouldn't necessarily know you're a man. Right, but they just wouldn't have any idea what you were.
No, they wouldn't, and you can't even say that they would know you're a man. They would just see you as another player. That's it, a gamer.
Yeah,
and this is, someone said in chat, hashtag lost generation of gamer girls. That's what you're facing. These individuals marching in with this particular man wants to get girls out of gamers, out of gaming, and he's going to do it by making girls, young women, think they're victims of the gaming culture.
Well, I don't think he actually wants to get girls out of gaming, right? I don't think that he has a purpose in mind other than just going with his feelings. And I think his feelings are telling him that, women are definitely victims of inequalities. Women are definitely victims of men. Women are definitely victims of, you know, when a woman is slapped in the face, it's a much greater crime than when a man is slapped in the face. And so I think that he's just going with his feelings there, and he's not really thinking it through. I don't think that this is his intention, is to get women out of games. I just think it's going to be the inevitable result.
Yeah. It's a, well, you know, we can't really speculate on his intention. If they started out, because this is funded by PBS, right?
Yeah.
So his intentions, well, he's being paid by someone. They may not be, they may be the intentions of the person who's paying him, you know. And if they started this channel by suckering people in, by doing games only content, and then they slapped people with the feminism, that may very well be that is the intent behind the people who are paying him. And because, like I said, create the sickness, sell the cure. This seems to be the consistent effect of feminism when it gets into a community, is to scare women out of it.
Yeah.
By presenting that community as being toxic to women. So goodbye, that next generation of gamer girls. Goodbye. And that, I think that's the ultimate. I think that the people behind this, who are pushing this, know what they're doing. Because it's too consistent with actually making more money, not just making more money, but keeping women in a state of fear so they can make more money.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm going to move on.
Talking about gender has been really important to us at Game Show. I mean, we want a telly for it. But today, I wanted to give you a little more context for why I talk about gender and the role of women in the world of games. Or put another way, how I became a video game feminist. A little bit of background.
Okay, just a sec. I wonder if this feminist is going to make men out to be the saviors of women and women to be damsels of men. Or to be damseling for men.
I don't know. I just have to wonder why his you know, he thinks that these two phrases are synonymous. Why I talk about gender in games, or, right, put another way, how I became a video game feminist. Like, why are gender and feminism synonymous? Why is analyzing gender and feminism, why are they considered to be the same thing?
Because turning women into victims of gamer culture is benefiting women.
Somehow.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
In 2008, I rediscovered video games. They had been a big part of my life as a teen, whiling away countless hours playing Quake in my school's computer lab. When I got to college, it was pretty much all Smash Brothers, with friends on the N64, which I've talked about before. Then I just stopped playing. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it was a lack of easily available friends to play with. Maybe I was just 22 and trying really hard to grow up. And if I hadn't decided to start covering games at the Wall Street Journal, I might not have returned at all. This new world of games was exciting.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying is you grew out of games and now you want to talk about the communities of people, or you didn't. Oh, sorry. Things happened in your life where you no longer were interested in games and now you're interested again? Well,
he said if he hadn't decided to write about games for the Wall Street Journal, he would not have gotten back into games. So he essentially decided to start writing about games during a time when he really wasn't into games.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem that I'm sort of having with this is the attitude that I'm getting is the reason why he became interesting to him is because he felt he could criticize him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It was an amazing time for games writ large. You had big marquee titles like BioShock and Assassin's Creed that were opening up new destinations, and you had smaller titles like Braid and Flower that were doing brave, experimental things. I then started interviewing game designers like Hideo Kojima and reviewing games in the Wall Street Journal for my own, well, short-lived column. And as I got deeper, I started spending more time around games and game makers, not just as a consumer, but as a professional journalist. That meant early access to games, closed-door interviews, and a lot of industry events. The moment that it first struck me that games had a gender problem was when I watched a very senior male producer grab another female producer's butt at an official company party. I should have done something. What?
Seriously? That's what made you think games had a gamer problem? As a gender problem with some idiot molesting another person? Like, fuck. If I applied this logic, I would say that, what was it? Was it Adele Mercier? She's in the University of Ottawa or the University of Toronto?
Ottawa.
Okay, if I applied that logic, Adele Mercier said that juvenile boys or imprisoned men can consent to their female jailers, can give legitimate consent to their female jailers. Not just talking about the adult ones. I'm talking about underage boys in jail, in a fucking cage, can give legitimate consent to their adult female victim aggressors. I'm not going to turn around and say the University of Ottawa rapes boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the University of Ottawa institutionalizes the rape of boys. No. I'm going to say that that's just one fucking idiot that they employed. This guy is an idiot. He grabbed some woman's butt, and games have a gender problem? That's it?
Well, without it, and honestly, without context, I can't even say that the butt grab was necessarily a horrible thing. I mean, like, what if they were in a relationship? What if they were flirting and sort of, you know, dating and like what is, you know, maybe she just molested, maybe he just molested her, you know, she just molested him in the closet, in the broom closet, like, who knows?
Yeah, so, there does need to be some context for this, but just because one game developer potentially, let's presume he's being honest. Let's listen and believe. How does one game developer being sort of gropey make all of games a gender problem?
Yeah.
It's like, does Eve Elsner talking about a good rape in which a woman rapes a girl,
13-year-old girl,
does that make all of feminism have a gender problem? I actually think maybe no. I mean, you can't base it on one incident.
We know that all feminism has a gender problem. We just don't base it entirely on that one freaking story by Eve Ensler. So, what are you doing?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
I didn't. I froze up, and I'm embarrassed about my inaction to this very day. And that was when
he doesn't even say whether the woman was discomfited. He just says, like, a guy grabbed her ass and he didn't say anything. He doesn't say that, like, she looked uncomfortable. He doesn't say that she looked really, really, really upset. He doesn't say that, like, that there was any indication that this was unwelcome. He just says that, you know, he didn't intervene when a male video game producer, you know, grabbed the ass of a female one. So there's no context. There's none at all.
Yeah, it's a little bit light on the context. It's also light on the explanation about how this means that games have a problem.
Yeah, that it's like an endemic problem because one guy did something.
I started noticing things about how women were being treated in the world of games because I saw versions of that interaction over and over and over again. There were booth babes at E3. Not that.
Okay, all right, wait, what?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
The game.
Okay, wait. All right, first of all, booth babes at E3 does not support your contention, sir. It does not support your contention. Your contention is that a woman was subject to sexual assault by a single man. Booth babes, as far as I know, are consensual. Are there consensually? Are you saying that they're also subject to sexual assault? Let's see if she says that.
Industry, but I remember one for the racing game Dirt, who was actually covered in dirt.
Yeah, no, he didn't actually say anything about booth babes getting groped, just that they exist.
Okay. Keep going.
Yeah.
The gaming industry seemed to have a laser focus aimed at attracting males, straight males to be more specific. The booth babes were designed to exclusively attract male attention, even though there are lots of women who have just as deep a passion, just as deep a love of games.
I know, and there's booth bros or whatever you want to freaking call them. There's booth beefcake. Like, God, like. This just boils down to heterosexual men should never have a product that is geared toward what they like.
You know, there are romance conventions where they actually have booth beefcake.
Oh God, yeah. All over the place. The booth beefcake, they have cover models. It was the dude who he was on like so many fucking romance covers, that mostly painted. But he was epitomized by the painters who do these romance novel covers. He was essentially called the perfect cover model because all you ever really had to do was change his hair, right? And other than that, he was perfect. I forget what his name was, but he actually he did a I Can't Believe It's Not Butter series of commercials. And then one time he was riding a roller coaster and a seagull hit his face and broke his nose. So you can Google that and find out who he is. But this guy was praised by all of these cover artists as being the quintessential romance novel hero, right? And he used to do appearances at these romance novel conventions, and I'm sure he had women pawing at his chest and ogling him and stuff like that. And there's plenty of cover models who have the exact same experience, right? Of women objectifying them and sexualizing them and drooling over them and flirting and saying all kinds of saying all kinds of innuendo-filled things to them and all of that. That's because oh my goodness, romance novels primarily appeal to women, and they're primarily written by women. So essentially, these conventions are going to be attended mostly by women, and so that they don't have booth babes there. They have booth beefcake. It's like the most amazing, and nobody is complaining that romance novels have like a gender problem that needs to be fixed, and that it's just if only we could fix this gender problem, then 50% of readers and writers of romance would be men. Nobody ever fucking says that. Women are allowed to have forms of entertainment that appeal to them that don't necessarily appeal to the majority of men.
And
oh my goodness, what a crime.
The other thing is I've read like some of the stories about what happens at those romance conventions, and like it's not uncommon to have these guys be like aggressively touched and pursued by these women.
Oh yeah, women are grabbing their junk left, right, and center.
Yeah,
right.
And
like
even to the point where the guys themselves are telling them to stop.
It's not like a woman just coming up and stroking his chest. It's like, she wants, can I get a picture with you? And then as the person snaps the shot, she freaking grabs his ball sack.
Yeah. That is like there are consistent stories of that, of groping coming out of these conventions, and even at the men's protests, please stop touching me kind of thing, and nobody actually intervenes.
No.
In fact, one story was about the one woman who did intervene. And it's like the women, and you listen to bouncers about women's behavior during male stripping and how horrific it is. It's to the point where some bars have stopped doing it because the women are so disrespectful to the strippers, and they won't abide by the rule of you don't touch when you're not like the person obviously doesn't want you to touch them.
Yeah,
you don't touch. And I've seen this myself. Not in strip clubs, but in a convention where there was a guy who was volunteering as one of those. It's sort of like a female focused convention, and he was volunteering he was a volunteer, and the way that one particular woman was just treating him like a fucking piece of meat was disgusting. I'm not gonna then turn. Okay, all right. I'll be complete disclosure. It was at YowieCon. I'm not gonna then turn around and say all of Yowie has a gender problem.
Yeah.
All of these female-focused conventions have a gender problem. Even though you could probably make the argument that women get away with a hell of a lot more of aggressive groping and not taking the word no to be no. You know that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that they will say that, oh well, patriarchy somehow makes up the difference, but it seems like the real difference between men groping women and women groping men is that we have a great tolerance for men groping women or women groping men. Oh,
We
all
do.
right.
You know, honestly, and it really is this whole idea that women's actions are ineffectual, and so any groping that she does really can't possibly affect the man, because compared to him, her actions, right? No matter how much she gropes him, I mean, he should just be able to shrug it off, right? He should just, even if he doesn't like it, he should be able to just shrug it off, right? Because her actions really don't amount to much.
Now, this is about the only situation where we definitely believe, like she's actually touching him against his will. She's actually forcing sex on him against his will, but it's still his problem. It's still his fault. It's still his fault for not appreciating it.
Yeah.
But that is really that's fucked up.
What the fuck is wrong with that guy? You know, like I've heard over and over and over again, if women get victim blamed, well, that for men that'd be a step up, because at least you have to acknowledge there's a victim in order to blame them.
Yep. But you know what? These incidents do not a problem, an overarching problem make. I mean, yeah.
Like, honestly, I would say that there is a problem with, women being too touchy and feely with men at conventions that are like predominantly women that have beefcake just kind of, sprinkled around. But like, there is a problem there. And it may even be and I think it is a systemic problem, because I have actually talked to a guy who ran a male stripping company, right? A troupe. And he said that he has asked his, like the bars, right, where they're holding a ladies' night, and he has asked them to enforce rules of conduct. He has asked them to enforce no touching rules, no groping rules, all of this stuff, right, with the female clientele. And he gets told over and over again, we are not going to do that, because we would lose the clientele. These women would not attend if they couldn't do this. So in this case, it actually is a systemic problem. It's not just tolerated by the owners of these clubs that hold these ladies' nights. It's enforced by them. It is the way they do things. They say, no, we are going to enforce a norm where women are allowed to fucking grope at will, because otherwise we would lose the female clientele. So that's systemic, not this stuff where some people grope booth babes and then they get kicked out of the convention. That's not institutional.
Let's do a gender switcheroo here. Let's imagine that women were the predominant audience for games, and let's think about what would happen to the booth beefcake. They would contractually be obligated to let themselves be groped. Otherwise, they would lose their audience at these gaming conventions.
Yeah.
Think about that. You fucking. No, I'm not gonna do an ad hominem. I'm going to be quiet. I'm not gonna.
It's not an ad hominem. It's just an insult. He's a douchebag.
Yeah, you douche. Like, seriously, you're creating female victimhood, where the situation, if it was reversed and it was men, booth beefcake, it's entirely likely that they would be contractually obligated to allow themselves to be groped, or they wouldn't get paid,
or their contract wouldn't be renewed.
And incidentally, I'm sure you saw female developers and female staff groping male developers and male staff. Most likely you did, because it happens, but you didn't care. Because you don't care unless it triggers your fucking white knight instincts to turn women into damsels. All right.
Okay, we're moving on.
If you're thinking that simply because it's mostly men or teenage boys who play games and that's why you see booth babes, etc., you're totally wrong. Period.
Except that, no, we're totally right, because the whole reason that we see booth beefcake at romance conventions is the exact same fucking reason, because the audience is predominantly female. So
Okay.
eat my shit and then lick my butthole.
Oh my God. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, well.
If you want to debate that, we did a whole episode about it. Seriously, right there.
What? Of gamers? Yeah. They play Candy Crush and Solitaire and Mahjong, and you know, and they play like freaking
The Facebook games. The Facebook games.
Yeah, and the Angry Birds, and you know, and they play those things, and so therefore they're such enthusiasts because they kill time on their smoke break with a little bit of Tetris on their cell phone, right? They're such enthusiasts that they're gonna pay the money to go to these fucking game conventions. That's
the issue. The problem is that he's mistaking Mr. I don't know, I'm just gonna call him Waldo. Waldo is mistaking.
Because he kind of looks like Waldo. Actually, that's a good.
But Waldo is more charming. But what he's mistaking game like the audience for games as including like Facebook games, including the puzzle games, including all of that. The audience for games with the audience for gaming conventions. The audience for gaming conventions, I would guess, is predominantly male, because men are the ones who invest in the hardware, in the more, you know, to play the more
one of the first things that I ever learned how to do, opened up a computer and fucked with it, okay, was when my then 18-year-old son spent some of his first earnings at his job, right, buying a huge, massive, awesome video card for his computer, and we had to figure out how to install it, right? I would never feel the need to install a new video card in my computer so that my freaking World of Warcraft experience would be less laggy. My daughter hasn't done that. And my daughter's geeky and gamey.
Yeah, but it's like the people, the audience for gaming conventions is most likely really, really hardcore gamers. And that's going to be men, because, you know, that's going to be men and boys, I guess, in these particular instances. I'm sure it's just men. So, yeah, you're wrong. You're mistaking. And I'm sorry, you can't just say it's not up for debate. You make an assertion that's patently wrong and then say, oh, it's not up for debate. Well, yeah, it is.
What fucking exciting fucking things can you discover at a video game convention if you're somebody who's addicted to Bejeweled, right? I for about a month there, I was addicted to Bejeweled to the point where my boyfriend was like, I think you have a problem, Karen, right? Okay. Am I going to go to a game convention to see a sneak peek of, instead of purple and white and yellow and, now we're adding like this new shapen freaking color of jewel to the Bejeweled freaking, no, I'm not going to spend the money to go to a game convention to see what the new updates, the new special features are on the newest version of fucking Bejeweled. Like, what the fuck is this guy thinking?
Yeah, and you're right. Well, whoever in the chat said we're noobs, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, I've never built a computer to game. But I'm not going to judge people who have, or men who have, and say, oh, I'm not part of that community, but, I get to judge it and tell it what it should do. Well, aside from saying, tell these people to fuck off.
I'm a total fucking noob. I mean, like, okay, I had my little, I played games when I had time. When I had fucking time in the day to play games, I used to play games. Not anymore. I just, when my kids were a certain age, I just didn't have time. I had other things that were more important. It's not an important part of my life, right? So I don't deign to, like, I can analyze it from outside the game community and say, you know what? I'm pretty sure that the majority of people who are going to feel really strongly about games, strongly enough to upgrade their computer every 2 years, buy a special video card and install it, get the quad core freaking processor because that's the speed you need. If that's what the processors do is speed, I don't know. I'm a fucking noob, right? But like the people who do that are the ones who are going to go to conventions, and those people are going to be most likely to be male.
Yeah, and I'm probably a little bit more into computers and games than you are, Karen. A little bit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no.
But I mean, for me, gaming as a medium, I'm interested in the medium that games really exist within and analyzing its properties. And I've actually done like a lot of work into that in terms of setting up. I wouldn't say experimental in terms of like strictly experimental stuff, but experimental in sort of exploratory ways, experiments on people in context of gaming. So, but I won't get into that because you don't need to know about it in this context. But anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
Level, I've probably always been a feminist in the sense that I believe in gender equality. But the way you describe
No. Oh shit! I was hoping we would get like at least another 30 seconds in before the bullshit started.
It's the dictionary definition of feminism.
Yeah, you know what? If feminists don't measure two sides, they are not for equality. Period. So, Waldo, if you don't measure the situation for men, how do you know it's equal? And if you don't know it's equal to women or unequal to women, how do you know you're creating equality? What you're doing is you're saying you have a set of scales in front of you, Waldo, and you're saying, I'm going to put gold bullion into this side of the scales, the female side of the scales, in order to pay off the difference to the male, because the male has more. But I'm not going to actually look at the male side of the scales. He
doesn't have a set of scales. What he has is a single scale, like a baking scale, where it tells you what one thing weighs. And he's like, as long as this thing weighs anything at all, as long as women experience any problems at all, ever, there's inequality. Because he doesn't have a set of scales. He just has one scale with one little freaking platform on it, and he puts women on it. And if there's any weight at all, then there's, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that feminist theory is all about reducing women down to victims in every conceivable circumstance, and that you can do that. Any situation, any person, you can reduce them to a victim of that situation. That person is a victim of that situation. So they have a mindset where they see women as victims in every conceivable circumstance, and then they say it'll only be equality when this victimhood that I've fucking created out of thin air is resolved. And I won't look at the other side because that would be misogyny. And I won't look at it. And even if I do look at the other side, I won't look at it honestly. If men have a problem, I won't say to myself, what would I think about this problem if women had it? No, you'll just say, well, I have these various theories that mean that when men have problems, it's just not as important.
Oh, well, I mean, here you go. A man gets falsely accused of rape, right? And he goes to prison. And the feminists can take that and say, well, the fact that it was a false accusation, right? That harms women because it makes women victims less likely to be believed. And it also victimizes women in the general sense, because the whole reason why he was convicted on no evidence and served time on a false accusation is because of the sexist beliefs that women are weak and blah, blah, and need protection, right? And then this same fucking feminist can say women need protection from rape and we need to actually, you know, erode due process so that women have better protection from rape, right? But then say that the results of their actions are actually based on misogyny.
Yeah. It's like it's a never-ending bullshit train.
Oh, God
Okay.
damn. And the only person who isn't a victim in this scenario is the man who is falsely accused because, well, he's just an abstract. He's not a real person. He's just like he's a construct.
Someone who was out, but after all,
okay, we're moving on. Damn it.
Yeah.
all that time around how games are made, it really dawned on me how big the problem really was. And over the several years that it took for that to sink in, I began to notice a host of new, not so great things about our beloved medium, most of which are pretty.
Those women are hot. I just want to say that.
Okay, well, I'm unable to actually see the hotness of the women because all I see is you strobing.
Oh man, well they're hot video game women on the screen. Just saying.
Obvious if you're playing those games.
Oh, holy shit. That was a nice shot. Okay, sorry. I wasn't really listening to what he said. I hope you were.
To realize it started to change what I actually wanted to spend time with in games. Women as sex symbols or props started to feel stale, and I started to seek out different experiences with more relatable female leads. Then there's
all right, here. This is not a problem. This is not a gender problem. This is this is not to my taste problem. You know what? It's not to your taste. You found something to your taste. Oh my God, the problem was solved. And yet here you are, Waldo, here you are telling us that there is some sort of problem.
Because not everything is to your taste.
Yeah, not everything is to your taste. And yet, who appointed you the official master of taste for everyone?
I decree from this point on, all food should be Boston pizza.
Oh, yuck! Did you have to choose Boston pizza? Who gave?
Yes,
Who made you in charge? Who?
I did.
Well, I want to speak to your manager.
Okay, you can get gluten-free shit at Boston Pizza, so just shut the fuck up and just eat the Boston Pizza because that's what I like. And you can just fuck right off and go hungry.
But okay, so I have no say in it because you decreed it, and you've also decreed that you're the only one who gets to have a say.
That's right.
That's not fair. Like, what? It's not fair. But the thing is that there's a whole
I know you're feeling helpless and attacked right now. I know you're feeling helpless and attacked, but here's the rub. See, my opinion goes, your opinion is a fucking steaming pile of shit to me. And also, you can lick my butthole.
But it's okay. I'm failing to see the moral authority upon which you can decide what kind of food I eat.
I have moral authority because I declare it. Because I insist that I have it.
But the thing is, okay, you can go to Boston Pizza, and I can go to any other of these other restaurants. We don't have to have them all be Boston Pizza. So at some point, you got to realize that you have the ability to choose what you want.
Those other restaurants offends me.
Yeah, but what about them offends you?
Everything. Their food, their awful falafels, like, honestly, like Euros, fucking give me a fucking break. Subway, they can fucking eat my shit. All I do, I walk past the Subway, all I can smell is their disgusting marinara sauce. Yeah, no, they need to cease to exist. Okay? Boston Pizza or the fucking highway.
Okay, let's move on. All right. I'll eat at Boston Pizza.
Excellent.
Starts to get questioned. When I started covering games, I realized that in some ways I was a minority because I'm not white, but in other ways I'm part of a giant, overwhelming majority because I'm male. When I went to video game events or parties, they're almost exclusively male. I hadn't been around that many guys in a single room since my days at an all-male high school. These functions were my introduction to privilege. It's much easier to be in that 95% of guys than in the 5% of females.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the guys, the few brave men who go into kindergarten teaching or nursing, or who really, really, really love romance novels and go to those romance novel conventions, and there are a few who really do, I'm sure they feel the exact same fucking way. Fuck!
Oh, no.
God damn it. Okay, moving on.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be a woman in that context. Here's the point. Privilege isn't a zero-sum game. It depends on context. I was a mixed kid, which has a historical legacy and a burden, but I'm also a man, which makes a lot of things easier. I'm far less likely to experience abuse, and I have a much...
Oh, you piece of shit. No, you're far less likely to be believed when you experience abuse.
Oh,
You
man.
fucking piece of shit. I'm cyber violencing you right now. Right fucking now. I am committing cyber violence against you. I'm actually stalking and harassing you by criticizing your fucking opinions, and I'm doing it in a really fucking mean way. I hope you go die in a fire, you asshole.
Criticize his appearance.
Oh,
Criticize his appearance.
Oh yeah, your fucking goofy Buddy Holly glasses and your pink striped fucking Waldo shirt. What the fuck is wrong with you? Learn how to shave and fucking get the Jerry curl out of your fucking hair, you loser. And what the fuck are you wearing a fucking, it's not even plaid. It's not even fucking plaid, and under a fucking actual suit jacket that's not even a casual blazer. Like, how are you even dressing? Who showed you to wear that? What the hell? And you know what? I'm going to send you this fucking video, and then I'm going to ask you if you're going to get a seat at the fucking UN to talk about how I was violent toward you. Shit.
All right, but wait. Let's culminate this. Let's culminate this act of cyber violence. I hope you get raped.
Oh, I hope a fucking team of midgets shoves a telephone pole right up your ass.
Okay, guy. I look forward to your UN address where you explain how us as a pair of women have caused you untold pain and get untold patron bucks. I suggest you get yourself a patron right now, and point it to this very video and say, "Hey, I'm a victim of cyber violence. Where's my $150,000? Where is it? Bitches! Like, seriously, okay, you have just been abused. Horribly abused, according to the UN. We might as well have just strapped you into our fucking rape dungeon and shoved a cucumber up your fucking ass after beating you and putting you into a gimp suit. Because guess what? The UN says, or the UN Women says, cyber touch is equivalent to regular touch. So we have just beat your fucking ass, Waldo. And we apparently just raped you. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Honestly.
Because if you were a woman, you would be speaking at the UN about it, and people would give a shit. Because you're a man, nothing happens. I guarantee nothing will happen.
Yeah, no, like they won't even acknowledge that we've just abused you, and we did horribly, and we didn't mean it. We were just doing so for demonstration purposes.
Yeah, don't do this at home, folks. We're trained cyber abuse professionals. We know how to do this without actually inflicting any harm, because we choose our.
Can we put a jackass disclaimer on the front of this video?
Yeah, we're just being jackasses. We don't actually believe that, although I do think that Karen is right. The plaid underneath the blazer look is not doing anything for you.
No, it's really not.
And we don't actually wish that you would get raped or beaten in any context.
Yeah, and I don't really think your shirt's that bad. Your stripy shirt. It's not that bad.
And you're not a bad-looking person either.
Yeah, actually, you sort of, you have a nice symmetrical face, and you have like decent features.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everything.
I don't think the color scheme is doing anything for you, though.
Everything coming out of your mouth just makes me very angry.
Yeah. All right,
moving on.
Yep.
Easier time being taken seriously.
Nice shoes are gonna make my feet hurt alert. The sneakers are the most comfortable, and I've got an 11-hour day coming, but are they going to take me seriously if I want? These are conversations that happen.
And again,
Oh, these are conversations that happen between you and your paranoid self, bitch.
Yeah. Oh my.
Because this is not a conversation that I have with myself. I go up onto the podium. I go and I speak in public places. I go and I speak at universities, right? I'm going to speak at a university in a little over a month, right? At the two speeches in a little over a month. And I've never once said, oh, the footwear that I have to wear is going to hurt my feet. Because you know what? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear what's comfortable, and fuck them. Fuck anybody who says that's a problem.
Yeah. Fuck them. Let's move on. Your problem is solved, lady. Fuck them.
Saw games. I started looking for new voices and to use the platform I had to push different voices to the front. And as it turns out,
no, you didn't push different voices in the front. You pushed women with your same beliefs to the front.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't push the woman who designed Bayonetta to the front, because I seem to recall you using a clip from, was it from Bayonetta? I think. As an example of what's horrible and sexist about games.
Yep. So you push women to the front as long as they agree with you. And then you probably, like most feminists, seem to define women only as people who believe feminism.
Yeah.
It seems sort of breaks down into that. But, let's get through this, because we promised ourselves like only 2 hours, right?
Okay.
In the hive mind.
Things as a reflection of this gender imbalance. Folks like Nina Freeman and the girls behind Tampon Run are showing different
Tampon Run. Literally, is that bitch throwing tampons at guys?
Just, I don't know, gross out humor has a place.
Oh no, I agree. That's just kind of weird, though. Yeah, I mean, like, I can get behind it. Like, honestly, if I had a tampon to throw at my boyfriend sometimes, I just might do it. Probably to still be in the wrapper, but, because sometimes he can be a jerk. But
of course, this isn't quite gross out unless there's a little bit of blood on it.
A tampon is pretty innocuous. It's like a teeny tiny little thing that you can throw at somebody and it won't ever hurt them. But
yeah, it's like, no. If you want to do a gross out game, lady, you got to actually make it gross. So your tampon needs to look like it's used.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you doing? You're just throwing bits of cotton at people. This is the stupidest, shittiest game ever. Oh, wait, I'm being a misogynist, aren't I?
You are.
Perspectives. And when I read game histories, the contributions of women came right out front. It could be Grace Hopper, the first lady of code, or Corinne Yu, who helped design the Halo engine. It's all there. You just gotta look. I want to be clear that
Except not Bayonetta. Not the woman who designed Bayonetta.
Yeah, no, not her. Because she does bad thing. Bad thing. She actually likes sexy women. So yeah, she's bad. Bad. Bad
we're
woman.
bad too.
Perfect. Sexism is something that's bigger than you and me, and we carry biases whether we like it or not.
Oh, did I just see sexist tech world raises its head at Adria Richards?
Oh, dongle gates? Oh, seriously? Seriously?
Sexism in the tech world rears its head at Adria Richards. Oh yeah, because a woman being hypersensitive, violating somebody's privacy, being completely unprofessional, right?
I have to go AFK for a moment.
Fired, right? And getting somebody fired, that is, people being upset at her about that's sexism, right? She literally eavesdropped on a conversation, took people's pictures without their permission, posted them online. Okay, as the last I checked, that's something that can get you, like doxxed in Gawker Media and fired from your fucking job, so you can no longer support your kid and your disabled wife, right? oh yeah, no, but oh, that was a man. This is different, right? Posted on fucking Twitter 2 days after you made dick jokes yourself, right? And say, this humor is inappropriate, and get somebody fired. And then when people get mad at you for that, right? It's sexism because you're a woman.
I think I got back at just the right moment.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm just gonna keep playing.
Yep.
And we carry biases whether we like it or not. For example, why is 90% of game shows viewership male? Maybe there's
Wait a second. 90% of game show viewership is male. Yeah, okay, right here. Did you make this a script because you didn't realize the glaring inaccuracy here? Because before you were asserting that the audience for games was the same as the viewership, and now you know that the viewership for a game show is 90% male. But who cares?
But
It's okay. It's okay for men to like something and be the primary audience of it.
Allison.
Oh my God, what?
90% of his audience for this show is male. That automatically means he's a sexist, misogynist cunt who should, go die in a fire, because obviously he's driving women away from his show.
I see.
Obviously through his misogyny.
But you did call it earlier. You're like, the guy, your audience is probably, Waldo, your audience is probably majority male. I actually thought he was referring to game show, like game conventions.
His game show, his show is 90% male audience, and obviously it's because he's sexist. I mean, like, what other explanation is there? He's sexist, he drives women away. So there you go.
Not make the show more welcoming to the millions of female gamers out there.
Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't make the show welcoming to the millions of female gamers out there, despite being obsessed with gender, despite being, a feminist, despite, wearing that unthreatening pink shirt, despite all of this stuff. He's just not doing enough to bring women in.
Well, I hope he doesn't do anymore, because if they imbibe the Kool-Aid,
I hope he keeps it up, because then he's going to lose viewership. He's not going to gain women, because the women who would be interested in watching a show like his are not the kind of women that he's talking about, that he's worried about pulling in, and the men are going to get sick of it and they're going to leave.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I mean, the thing is that it is actually a fairly decent way of selling feminism is to gamers, since gamers like to, the part of the appeal of game is saving something. Or
part of the appeal of women is that, like, they're women, and so I'm almost positive that most gamers like being around women.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I think that his message is not going to have a problem with men, because a lot of men like the idea of women being damsels and saving them. That's why there's the trope in gaming, and it's not. You know what? There's no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I think that it needs to be moderated a bit so it doesn't start creating a society where people's men's legal rights are not enforced properly. But regardless of that, I think that his message will appeal to the white knights in the gaming world. So I think that it does appeal to men. I'm not so sure it appeals to female gamers as much.
Yeah, I don't know that he can do anything to actually bring more female audience members in, because
telling them they're victims of games,
the market just isn't there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Even if the market isn't there, the market is not there. That, like, until the market is there for women who actually invest a huge amount of time and energy and thought and planning into their gaming life, right? And that's not downloading freaking Angry Birds to your phone. That's actually, like, building a freaking gaming computer and investing in, some really expensive components, and then getting a gigantic screen and getting your setup all and and working really hard at getting good at the specific games that get talked about on games shows, right? Because there's Bejeweled, Candy Crush, there's only so much of a conversation you can have about it. There's only so, oh, it was good, it was challenging, that's it, right? Even, right, there's really not much to talk about there, right? There's stuff to talk about in BioShock, there's stuff to talk about in Hitman, there's stuff to talk about, there's things to criticize in those kinds of games, right? That go above and beyond, are my thumbs sore, right? And was it, was the pause button easy to find, for when the phone rings, right? Honestly, essentially, there's nothing to talk about in those games such that you would actually produce a show to talk about those games that women are more likely to like, right? So there's no way to bring the female audience in to a show talking about games. The only way to do that is if women are going to start playing the games that men play. And in order for women to start playing the games that men play, it requires a massive amount of commitment and dedication and expenditure, right, of resources and time in order to be an enthusiast in that aspect of gaming, right? I can get really good at I can just go to PopCap Games or whatever, PopCap Games, and play my Bejeweled for like freaking 8 hours on end and not really get any better at it, but still enjoy myself. And you know what? That's fine, right? If I want to play even fucking Team Fortress 2, I actually have to dedicate time and energy because it's something you play online with a team of actual other real people who will kick you off if you're a liability, right? And you actually have to invest time and effort into it, and you have to have more than a fucking cell phone to do it, right? And so it's a completely different fucking thing. It's a completely different phenomenon. It's like the difference between people who watch movies and people who are cinephiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing
is,
oops. If they want to actually attract more women, the problem with gaming, if I were to call it a problem, if you want to consider it a problem, which I don't, but if I were to look at it from their lens and say, hey, okay, well, the fact that games don't appeal to women, certain game genre doesn't appeal to women, is a necessarily a bad thing. Assuming that, so how would we go about fixing it? Because what's really happening here is that, let's say we have a Mount Everest, a mountain, and we got a bunch of women and a bunch of men. And we give the men the tools to climb the mountain, but we don't give the women the tools to climb the mountain. And we say, well, they're not climbing the mountain. Well, they haven't given them the tools to do it. And what those tools are, in my analogy, is the social tools to desire, to seek out and desire excellence, to seek out and desire a sense of potency, to seek out and desire a sense of efficacy and of consequences to your actions. And feminism is giving women the exact opposite. Feminists are essentially going there and they see a woman, I don't know, who has managed to get the tools to climb the mountain. They're like slapping it out of her hand and saying, no, you don't get that.
Yeah, no, you need a gondola ride. You need a gondola ride to the top of the mountain. You shouldn't climb that thing. That's difficult.
Yeah. And then they wonder why nobody gives a shit when we get to the top. Well, because they got a gondola ride. But the real way of solving this is to give women the tools. And unfortunately, as a society, we don't want to do that because it requires actually developing women's personhood rather than developing our valuation of their womanhood, which would mean that women would have to be shamed when they're cowardly. They would have to be shamed when they're lazy or useless, shamed to the same degree as men. So women would have to have their gender identity predicated on being useful, on not being lazy, on not being cowardly. So essentially, we'd have to have some way of saying to women, you cease to be somewhat human when you are a coward, when you're lazy. when you don't make an effort to achieve in order to get the same level of achievement that we see from men. Because we essentially say to men, you're useless if you don't achieve. Well, guess what? Men achieve. If we don't say that to women, women are not going to achieve. They're just going to sit there and say, well, I got all the value I need by just being female.
Yeah. And now you need to hand me things.
And then we have feminism on top of it, teaching women to so if any woman finds
teaching women to see the demand that you achieve, right? That that's misogyny.
That's misogyny. And also to see that any demands or any expectation of adhering to any kind of standard of behavior is misogyny. So feminists are walking around slapping the tools out of women's hands as much as humanly possible. And then we see, as a result, the exodus of women out of STEM and the about to see the exodus of women out of gaming. That's because feminists are out there. Oh, you just happen to, you as a woman, you just managed somehow to get those tools. Well, let me slap them out of your hand by telling you that you're a victim.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense to anyone, but it makes a sense to me. So
it does to me too. I'm gonna move on because we gotta get done with this, and I'm kind of getting sick of looking at this guy. So.
And when researching the show, we don't always do a good job of balancing the voices we draw upon or the characters we highlight on screen. It's also important to know that feminism isn't just one thing or one idea. There are lots of strong and sometimes contradictory voices in.
Oh my God!
Couldn't resist, could you?
He showed. Are you actually watching the video? Because he showed Anita Sarkeesian and then he showed Christina Hoff Sommers. Strong and sometimes contradictory
inside the world of feminism, so
well,
you can't
props
just
for showing Christina Hoff Sommers, but unfortunately, I think she's being tokenized here.
Oh, I think she is, because she's not his brand of feminism, obviously, but
one big brush. Nor do women need men to save them from the explicit and implicit sexism in the world of games. So
really,
hey, that's great.
So what are you doing here? What is this video? Why are you a feminist if women don't need you to save them?
Okay, so essentially what you said, Waldo, is that your video is pointless. It's like, well, what was the point of your video? Like, men don't need to save me. Great. Okay, men don't need to save me, and they don't need to save Karen. That's great, guys. Developers, male developers, keep doing what you're doing. Male gamers, keep doing what you're doing. No need to save us.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. I'm glad that Waldo has cleared that up. So anybody who watched this video and thought that they had, if you're a man and thought you had to actually do something to help women, don't. Don't.
Yeah, no, don't.
What is it with okay, I had the same problem with Jenny. I actually have the same problem with a lot of the feminist commentators that I am now discussing.
Mm-hmm.
They assert something during their video, and then at the end, they assert the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like, he's making this into this huge problem that needs to be addressed, but then he's saying, well, guys, let's just check out. We don't need to do it. Let's kick back, play our Grand Theft Auto, have some beers, have our all-male LAN parties or whatever, and we don't need to do anything. Good.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
You don't.
So, yeah.
So what's the point of your video?
And what's the point of being a feminist?
Yeah, exactly. What's the point of being a male feminist? You just don't have to do anything. In fact, you probably shouldn't even call yourself a male feminist. You probably
he shouldn't be calling himself a male feminist because he's a man, and a lot of feminists don't take kindly to that.
Okay, but also, I'm going to take what he's concluding here one step further. Hey, Waldo, what if men need women to step up and save them from sexism and gender bias? Hey.
What if men need women to tell the world that it's okay for an entire genre of entertainment to cater mostly to one sex?
Yeah. And
not just romance fiction with women. It's not just romance fiction, right? When it comes to written fiction, women are the majority of consumers They are the majority of readers. Not just the majority of readers, they're also the majority of writers. They're the majority of publishers. They're the majority of agents. The entire industry of fiction writing is dominated by women. Women readers, women authors, women agents, and women publishers. Right? And that includes children's fiction. That includes children's fiction.
Yes, indeed. And we might add that men have to often assume a female name to be given any legitimacy or respect in the industry.
Exactly. If you're going to write anything that's aimed at a female audience, you need to take on a gender neutral or a female pseudonym. And on top of that, you know, like, and I can absolutely say, absolutely say, market forces should be what calls the shots when it comes to this sort of female-dominated industry, when it comes to adult fiction, right? But when it comes to children's fiction, right, the dearth of men in writing, the dearth of men in publishing, the dearth of men in, you know, doing agent work, all of that, the dearth of male editors, all of it, right, is kind of doing a disservice to people who really don't have the kind of market clout that would allow them to actually be appropriately represented in the market. So,
and also, we know that we know that there's been instances where male booth beefcake have been molested by women in romance conventions. And also the existence of said booth beefcake means that the entire romance genre and all of the genres of fiction that are dominated by women have a gender problem. Therefore, you and me, Karen, we can go in there and we can tell people how they should do shit. How they should do their shit. Like,
well, I actually think that we should be able to go in there and say, you know what, groping is not okay. And there should be rules against it, and those rules should be enforced, right? Just like they are in the video game community and the comics community and all these other geeky, nerdy things that men tend to dominate. There are absolutely rules, and they are absolutely enforced when somebody brings it to the attention of the authorities that, you know, I got groped by this fan, that fan is ejected, right? That does not happen. The you know, with male strippers, with beefcake, booth beefcake at romance conventions, they've actually been told, yeah, no, we're not going to enforce any rules. We're not gonna do that because, you know, it's just like we don't want to scare away our female clientele by, you know, giving them a hard time for getting handsy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there should be something in place to protect men from women when they will not stop touching them. But other than that, I don't think that. Well, I guess the publishing industry does have its issues with cliques and insularity. But you know what? I don't give a shit because they're bigger fish to fry.
Well, on top of that, there's absolutely nothing stopping any author from self-publishing his own work.
Yep. They don't like it, just self-published. Okay.
There you go.
Not to mention, lots of places that you can go to learn more. I'll link to some in the description, including this great video from Jessica Lee about how you can be an ally. At the end of the day, I believe that it's entirely possible to both love games
Wait. An ally? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, men don't have to be anything according to you because men are not. You're saying that men shouldn't save women. Well, that's wonderful. Okay. Then don't.
Yeah. No,
Don't
I mean,
be
like,
an ally.
yeah,
Don't make an effort to change yourselves at all for women. Excellent point, Waldo. I really appreciate it. I can get behind it 100%. Your final point actually has turned your video from like a 2 out of 10 to, what would you say? Men don't have to actually do anything feminist at all. I mean, that's basically what he said. I think that's a really good message.
4 out of 10. But
Yeah.
but we're not right at the end because there's still 4 minutes to go.
But apparently, like, the last 3 minutes is completely irrelevant shit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
go for it.
To acknowledge that they're not some separate thing from the world, but a way to challenge ourselves and push forward. So I hope this gives you some broader context for why I talk about gender from time to time. Because, I mean, come on, it's not really that often. Regardless, I hope that your personal experiences lead you down the same road that I'm on.
All right, stop for a second. All right, now I take it back.
Oh, he hopes that you see women getting their asses groped at conventions. Because he hopes that, you know, these men's personal experiences lead them down the same path.
Okay.
You know, so
right.
he's hoping that these men see women being victimized.
Right. No, I think the assumption is that they are already seeing them.
The personal experience, you know.
But I love how he just sort of sneaks in like some abuser talk there. Oh, honey,
yeah.
I don't slap you that often. I don't slap you that. My male audience, I don't insult you with this bullshit that often. I don't treat you as dehumanize you with my rhetoric that often. I don't tell you that your pastimes are immoral that often.
And the whole thing with, you know, the whole, oh yeah, no, you don't have to. Oh, I didn't really mean it, honey. I didn't mean it. You know, it's I didn't actually mean. Like,
all right.
Oh God.
Okay, well, I said earlier that if men are feeling helpless and attacked, that sort of gets my dander up. Well, yeah, I want to tell guys who are listening to this out there, however many of you there are, yeah, just listen to the last few things he says. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything. Just and accept that this stuff is actually abusive. What he's doing is actually abusive. You don't have to tolerate it. And the first step is just realizing it. This guy's being abusive. And he's being abusive towards apparently 90% of his audience who probably pay his bills.
They do.
Don't tolerate that shit. And why shouldn't the fact that you feel attacked and helpless as men actually be an indication that someone should stop doing what they're doing?
Yeah. Yeah, no, this whole fucking thing. Are you sure the rest of this is like completely useless, the last 3 minutes?
Well, we can go through it just for comprehension, being comprehensive, but maybe go through it a little faster.
Okay.
Get together. So what do you all think? I know we focused a lot on me and my personal experiences. Thank you for bearing with me. But I'd love to hear from you about your personal experiences with feminism or gender imbalance or whatever that might be. Hash it out in the comments. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe.
Wait. This is hilarious. Now our audience is discussing whether or not they'd have sex with them. And I believe their audience is probably majority male.
Okay, well, he just signed off, but there's still like freaking 2.5 minutes to go, so I can't even imagine.
No, let's not even imagine. Let's end it here. This is a good spot to end it. I just find that hilarious. Well, so maybe we should take a cue from our audience and discuss the sexability of this individual. I actually have a thing for vulnerable nerdy guys.
I'm not gonna say he's gay, right? But I think Milo could probably convince him to do some stuff.
Well, Milo could probably convince a lot of men to do some stuff.
He almost convinced me to go on a pony ride with him.
But it's like he's not. I would say, I don't know. I actually prefer the contrast between like a very masculine-looking guy and vulnerability. So
I kind of do too. Like I'm not into. I don't find effeminate men attractive. I do find like I have been able to find smaller, nerdy, shorter kind of men attractive, but they were not necessarily effeminate, right? And this guy just seems to be a little bit effeminate.
Yeah, but I mean, if like he could just. I think the only major faux pas was the plaid underneath the blazer.
But honestly, like as part of my judgment of that is like as a obviously a guy who seems like the type who would like care about his appearance, that like I wouldn't hold that against a, big burly straight man, because like that guy the big burly straight man probably didn't even look in the mirror before he left the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. It's just huh. Well, you know what? Let's lead this to the audience. How would you rate? I mean, I guess this is cyber violence. We're now going into the realm of cyber violence.
Oh yeah. No, would you bang? Would you bang?
Would you bang? Would you not? I mean, what's your reasons? Do you agree with the plaid and blazer?
And honestly, if you would bang, you're a horrible person, and if you wouldn't bang, you're also a horrible person.
We judge you both ways.
Yes, there's no way to win.
Yep. Okay. Well, all right. Let me see if I can actually do this now. And doopity doo. Okay. So I'm going to probably screen share in a sec, but this is thank you for listening. And if you've come this far with us and our zaniness, please do consider. Yeah. You're an awesome person.
I can't imagine anybody staying with us this far and this long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just because this wasn't pleasant for me. Maybe it's more pleasant to listen to than it is to actually do.
Well, I think actually what it is that people watch this stuff and they're sort of like, when they watch it, they don't have a way of feeling like they can respond to it with someone else.
Yeah.
So it just feels really like, I think it's isolating, which is part of the problem with this authority, speaking from a platform of authority and not having the ability to comment on it or be able to have your moral opinion considered when we start talking about creating a moral landscape. I mean, that's very isolating. And I think that when we talk about it, it really feels like people are less isolated. And that's a good thing. And I can sort of understand that is a service that is needed. And I also understand that part of the service that's needed is to demonstrate to people that they can get angry at this stuff and what specifically they can get angry at.
Yeah.
Because this guy is not being very nice. He's got all this cute shit in the background and stuff, and he's inoffensive, but he is being a thug.
Yeah,
he's being abusive.
He thinks he's being nice. He thinks he's being okay. He's like the emotional abuser who is will turn around and say that you defending yourself is actually you victimizing them.
Yeah. But anyway, if you do like these broadcasts, and I do believe we're doing a service by essentially allowing people to get angry at things that you should be angry at. And personally, I don't have a problem with anger. I think that anger is basically it is a cry for recognition of equality of a cry for making a connection. It's the cry for making a connection of the last resort. So when somebody gets angry, that's them saying, hey, pay attention to me as a person. Pay attention to me as an equal. And that's what we're saying to this guy. Pay attention to us as equals. You don't get to sit on high and make judgment of us. You don't get to have a system of judgment that we don't have a say in. Any system of judgment you don't have a say in is illegitimate. It's illegitimate. So ask yourself, did I get a say in this system of judgment? If the answer is no, let's fucking throw it out. It's nothing. It has nothing to do with you. Because you deserve a say in it. Everyone deserves a say in it. And if somebody presents to you a system of judgment, you had no say in it, get angry. Because that's thuggery. And anyway, if you want to help us continue to show these people up and say, hey, no, you got to respect us. You got to treat us as equals. You want to create a system of morality, you got to include us in the conversation. then please consider becoming a patron at our Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And we're not going to stop being angry, because being angry is not a problem. What is a problem is contempt and the expectation that people submit to moral authority that hasn't been earned by consensus, by some form of consensus. All right. Thank you. Peace out.